So we've all seen the Lando problem videos, right? Like, you cannot escape them. One thing about Lando, he's gonna catch a problem, according to the people online. And, you know, in these conversations, in the F1 commentary space, Nuance? Who's that girl? We don't know her. When it comes to these Lando problems videos, they usually fall under one of two categories. Either the person making the video does not like Lando and they are quite biased against him, or they really like Lando and they're going to be very biased in his favor. However, no matter where you stand in, there is one overall category, a big bubble where all of these videos fall. And that is, I have nothing to say, but I will jab for 20 minutes. Maybe this video also falls under that category, I don't know. If these creators are complainers, then I am the complainer of complainers. In other words, we're all whining. We're a little whiny babies, and we should probably shut up. If you ask me whether I'm a Lando believer or a non-believer, I would say I'm a Lando sympathizer. Like, I don't love Lando, but I don't hate Lando. And I'm also not like indifferent to him. I would say I like him a very normal amount. Like, he's not my favorite driver, but I would be happy for him if he became a world champion. But enough about me. In this video, we're actually gonna diagnose the Lando problem. We're gonna actually define it so we can stop being so goddamn inquisitive about it all the time. And yes, I am qualified to do this because this is my channel and I said so. In a way, this is gonna be a Lando history class. So history buffs, stay seated. Anyway, before we start, I have a very big, very important announcement to make, and that is that my channel name is a freaking lie. Yes! I am now able to drive and pretty good at it, if I say so myself. So everyone say, congrats queen, we always believed in you, yada yada. And in case this is your first time here, hi, I'm Stella. I make silly videos about F1 on YouTube, and I now can drive, so hop into the passenger seat and let's get this video started. And by hop into the passenger seat, I mean like and subscribe and all that jazz. Anyway, you know it. Let's get this going. Whew. Okay, real quick, before we put our thinking hats on, we have to address the elephant in the room, which is, does the Lando problem mean that he is the problem, as in he is the Lando problem, or he is got a problem? And the answer to that is yes, to everything. Depending on which videos you're watching, it could be one or the other or both. Not very helpful, I guess. Personally, and I know no one's asked me, I would say the Lando problem is more of a problem he's got, and not that he himself is a problem, but that could just be me being nice and friendly and not hateful, so take that with a grain of salt. Whatever it may be, we're gonna hop into the time machine, we're gonna put our thinking hats on, and we're gonna go to the very beginning. Chapter 1, the Old Testament. Where did the Lando problem become a thing? Not from the get-go. When Lando first got into F1, his biggest problem was that McLaren was not cooking. But we wouldn't make hundreds upon hundreds of videos about each team that's dropping the ball, or like not picking it up in the first place. It wouldn't get many views, would it? It wouldn't ruffle enough feathers. But what does get people clicking and losing their goddamn minds, it's A, people criticizing their faves and them going to defend them, or B, people that are also haters and therefore they will thrive in this environment in which they are giving a free pass to be annoying little gremlins in the comments, you know? And that's what a lot of these Lando problem videos do. They get views from the Lando fans, and if you're one of them, hi, don't do that, maybe. Do not give these people with malicious intentions your precious, precious attention spam. It's not a productive use of your time, and it only gives these people more incentives to keep pumping these videos. Controversy sells. It is what it is. And on the other hand, they get views from the people that are foaming at their mouths at the idea of Lando losing the championship for a second time. These videos validate their feelings, and it's kind of like open hunting season for everyone to join hands and say kumbaya and be so fun and snarky and based, or whatever it is the kids say these days. And like, even if the video itself is not really dunking on Lando, the comment section usually stinks like real bad. But anyway, going back to these early days, Lando was a pretty loved dude. Drive to Survive was definitely good for him. He was definitely being sold as this like younger brother. And I mean, overall, he had like all the elements to succeed. He had a romance, not like in a romantic sense, even though some people would literally die on that hill. A midfield team with potential, a taste for gaming and streaming, and just overall silly goof vibes.
I gotta go to an appointment, so I'm gonna have to ditch you, if that's alright.
Wait, are you serious?
I'm serious. Yeah, I gotta go like now. So
He was everyone's favorite little dude. However, I do bet even back then there would be people that did not like him, but that's okay because no one will ever like you. Oh, that's not what I meant! It's impossible for everyone to like you, okay? So that's fine. However, the conception, the seed of the Lando problem phenomenon did start back then. He was getting increasingly popular, especially amongst Drive to Survive fans and the Brits. However, no one likes Drive to Survive fans or the Brits. So from the get-go, he's got this considerable pool of people that immediately will not buy into the hype, and they will think he's overrated, and they will just not like him out of spite, because we're like that. And I mean, let's be honest, as the years went by and he went from looking like your regular high school preteen to a Love Island UK contestant, you can choose whether that's derogatory or not. I do mean it in a derogatory way. His fandom only grew stronger, especially amongst the younger girls, the girly pops. And we all know what happens when young girls like someone or something. That thing will get dragged to the end of the world and back, no matter how good, bad, or successful it is. Actually, the more successful, the more it will get dragged through the mud. In case you don't know what I'm talking about, figure A, the Beatles. But anyway, that's exactly the topic that I discuss in my Lando Fangirls Problem video. In case you haven't watched it, you should do that right after this one. But overall, that is not a video about Lando's fangirls being a problem. It is a video about the problem of Lando's fangirls, which is mostly misogyny. In the video, I kind of give a fandom history lesson, and I complain about how the traditional F1 fandom treats these young female fans, and as an extension, treat Lando poorly. Especially because in online spaces, when DTS fans are discussed, it's usually assumed that they are a bunch of young girls, which, like, is that even true? Well, actually, thanks for asking. I just found a report that shows that while it is true that DTS has a younger audience, with 31% of watchers being between the ages of 18 and 29, it is not true that it is majoritarily women. Actually, the split is pretty clean, with 46% of watchers being women and 54% of watchers being men. However, to these old-timey F1 fans, it's gonna feel like the females are taking over, because any increase of female presence will make their hoo-hoo-hoo-hoo alarms go off. There's literally this study in a book called Man-Made Language that found that when there's a mixed group of men and women, men always talk more. However, if women were taking over about 25% of the conversation, they were perceived to be giving an equal contribution. And if women were talking 30% or more, they were perceived to be dominating the conversation, even though they were only doing a fraction of the speaking men do. And I know this is a study about like classrooms and like meetings, but I think it can give you a general idea of how well men take the presence and opinions of women, and especially young women. I think it's safe to say that when women are joining these fandom spaces, they will be perceived as dominating the conversation, despite the fact that there are still way more male F1 fans, way more male F1 content creators than women. But anyway, this is not what this video is about, and we're gonna move on to chapter 2, the New Testament. And with that, we're gonna be getting into the Lando winning problem, because yes, when Lando no wins, people goofed off a lot at his expense, but he wasn't like hated for it, you know? Then in the good old times, some people thought that a Lando win was overdue, and then some other people thought that it would never come. And then about a year ago at the Miami Grand Prix, funny that I'm filming this during the Miami Grand Prix times, Lando changed his name legally from Lando no wins to Lando one wing. And literally everything else changed way faster than he was prepared for, probably.
And it's all too much for little Lando Norris. 21 years old, he just needs a bit of sleep.
In F1, winning is gonna put a target on your back. It's not only the drivers that now know that you are a threat and they need to target you and be mindful of you in order to win, but it's also the fans. Because now your talent comes to question. Did he win because of his talents, or did he win because the car is really good? Did he win only because of the safety car? Did he just get lucky? Those that already did not like him now had way more room to analyze his driving, to analyze his personality, his interviews, pull apart every little piece, trying to find a reason why he's not supposed to be this winner. And on top of that, people that were maybe lukewarm towards him may now come to dislike him because he is taking wins from their faves. And also because no one's happy with the winner unless it is their personal flavor of winner. I mean, last season was a freaking roller coaster for Lando. He went from completely flying under the radar in a car that no one thought was gonna be that competitive to having the best car and the best chances to take the championship from Max. Those are big words. So naturally, and because people don't have a lot of common sense, starting from that first wing, people were expecting him to display the same kind of dominance that Max has been displaying for the past 3 years on his beast of a Red Bull. A beast that has effectively been put down ever since, because Max is single-handedly carrying that team on his back. But guess what? That didn't happen. Of course it didn't happen. Max is a generational talent. I don't expect to see that kind of dominance from any driver in the next 10 years or so. So now Lando's winning, but not winning enough. He's being too risky or not risky enough. He was being cocky if he rejoiced in his success and he felt assured on his talents, or he was weak-minded if he made himself small after things didn't go his way. To be honest, there was absolutely nothing he could have done to stop the toxic gossip train that was going straight towards him at this point, other than maybe winning every single race and giving a perfect performance every single weekend, which is not very realistic if I say so myself. The pressure to be a winner at the front while battling, mind you, 3-time world champion Max Verstappen, generational talent Max Verstappen, and his little bud, Max, that's all to take for anyone. And if on top of that you're adding the amount of scrutiny and negativity surrounding him, I think it's pretty reasonable that he might be struggling a little bit. And then bloodsuckers use that to weaponize his mental health against him. I've said this in all my videos and I will continue to say it. We don't know these people. We don't know these people. There is no way that you, watching F1 from the comfort of your home, can know the first thing about Lando's mental health. And also, how shitty is it that there's one driver talking about mental health in such a prideful, cutthroat sport as is F1. He's doing this very important work of bringing awareness to it, and people just do a reverse and shit on him. It's just evil. And I will go one step further and say that the reason why people reacted this way, it's because it made them uncomfortable. It's because they don't know the first thing about mental health and they are afraid to look in the mirror and face the reason why they are so goddamn miserable. So yes, I would say Lando's problem is not his mental health. Other than being really tough on himself, which is a very common trait amongst high-performance athletes, and maybe struggling to block the noise and perform under pressure, I don't think he's giving us any indication that he's got serious or severe mental health problems. Thus far, it seems that Lando's biggest problem is that a big chunk of F1 fans are a bunch of jealous, whiny bloodsuckers. But of course, that's not all. Last year, he loses the title. And it was sad, but not unexpected. 2024 Lando in a McLaren was close enough to make Max Verstappen have to really work for it, but not close enough to win it. And yeah, he didn't win. There's no way around that. However, he was single-handedly the only other driver that could have done it. The Ferraris, nowhere near where they needed to be to win it. The Mercedes, nowhere to be seen for most of the season. And yet, none of these guys was getting the amount of shit Lando was getting. Because by that point, everyone was hyper-fixating on Lando's downfall. And if he was as bad as people made him out to be, would he have been consistently winning? Would he have been able to keep his second place? No, he would have been third. Oscar would have caught up to him, or Charles would have caught up to him, but they did not. And I'm sure people will argue that they started disliking Lando because he had an attitude shift once he started winning. People love to throw that curveball at drivers. Unless you are a literal beam of sunshine, and I am talking about you, Alex Albon, there will be people that will find you insufferable, cocky, ungrateful, yada yada yada. There are very few drivers at the top that do not get these allegations. And I think that's because secretly everyone wants to see these F1 drivers brought down a peg. It's a matter of power. Like, they're rich and they are cool and they get to drive these fast cars and they get all of this attention, and the butthurt F1 fan that has none of that but maybe would really like at least some of that will find a degree of collective power in pointing fingers at them, dissecting their driving, dissecting their interviews, basically just jumping at every opportunity to tell the world how unworthy they actually are. However, the funny thing is that people criticizing the attitude of these drivers are oftentimes themselves showing really poor attitudes towards them. The only difference is that they have the anonymity of the internet to not really suffer the consequences of their actions. Like, was Lando always gracious and eloquent? No, he's not the Queen of England. There are very few people that get to always keep their cool, who never let their passions, their fury, their disappointment show. Even those that are known for being very level-headed misstep sometimes. But I don't think we should punish or judge people for showing genuine emotion, for losing the plot a little bit. I mean, haven't you? And I know I am being an insufferable bore, and I know I'm being the moral police, but I do truly believe that the F1 fandom has an attitude problem, and I will call it out. Anyway, we're moving to chapter 3, Apocalypse. And with that, we get to present times. Lando is allegedly the favorite to win the Drivers' Championship. And I say allegedly because I am not so sure. Talking to people in real life and reading comments online, I feel like most people actually think Oscar's gonna get it. And I mean, judging by their performance thus far, that could very well be the case. That just might be Lando's actual problem. Bigger than a bunch of losers online. Bigger than the sky for all of these drivers. The fear of being second best. I actually do believe that if Lando loses this opportunity to Oscar, it's gonna be devastating. Not only because he lost it twice in a row, but because losing it to 3-time world champion Max, generational talent Max Verstappen, that is one thing. But losing it to your teammate who got to the team after you, making you a second driver, that could completely shift Lando's career moving forward. He would definitely not be the favorite song anymore, if he ever was. In conclusion, I would say that Lando's problem is that everyone is in his goddamn business. Everyone's commenting, everyone's making videos, everyone's talking, and yet no one's saying anything, really. Like, we're all following this circus. We know what is at stake. We know what's going on in McLaren. I don't think we need 500 videos making assumptions about Lando's mental health or whether or not he's a brat or a flop to get the idea. And I mean, I do not delude myself into thinking that anyone needs my silly F1 TikTok videos. But at least I'm not being destructive. Like, God forbid the girl's trying to bring a little whimsy, a little fandom content to this platform. And like, I am not saying to not talk about that. I am very interested in seeing think pieces. If you don't think Lando's champion material, back it up with something other than assumptions and mean-spirited comments. We can all sit down and explore the question, what does it mean to be championship material to you? I am interested in those conversations. What I'm not interested on is dogpiling on this dude. Please, someone bring critical thinking and nuance. As a fandom, we need to touch grass. We need to bring back critical thinking and nuance before spilling a bunch of snarky shit. Anyway, this was a mouthful. See how we're actually besties? First we're like watching TikToks together and now you're listening to my rant. Let's make this a two-way conversation instead of a WhatsApp audio. By hitting me up in the comments, maybe like, subscribe, share, and all that good shit that helps support this girly. Anyway, I will see you next week. Same day, same time. See ya! Mwah.